Okay, we're good to start.
All right, great. Welcome, everyone. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And then I will launch into the land acknowledgement. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. The land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattie-Wendurong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. And now I'll put forth the question, are there any declarations of interest? If you can raise your hand. Not seeing any. And can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? You can use, okay, Janice, and a seconder. Saba, terrific. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Great. Any opposed? Not seeing any. All right, so that motion passes. Okay. And looking at the March 7th, 2024 adoption of minutes, can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes? Andrew and Janice. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Terrific. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. All right, so I just want to take the opportunity, I'm going to go off script just for a second. So we do have some new faces. So Dennis, if we could start with you, I'd just like if you could just introduce yourself to the group. You're on mute, Dennis, if you're trying to talk.
Oh, okay. I heard Janice.
Hello.
Hi. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm Dennis Nsafwa. My last name is pronounced Nsafwa. I'm happy to be a new member of the group. I live in Thorold. I've been in Thorold for about 2 years now. I moved from Alberta here about 2 years ago, and so far I'm still getting to know the place. I love it so far. I just thought it would be a good way to contribute to the city, so I decided to get more engaged. I was fortunate to have seen an advert for an availability on this spot, on this committee, so I thought, okay, I have some experiences, I can share my experiences and also make some sort of contribution to the city as a whole. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Welcome, Dennis. Thanks for joining. All right, Nicholas, over to you. Welcome, Nicholas.
Yes, hi. You're probably used to seeing Matthew Trenum. He has left the city for another opportunity with the city of Hamilton. So I'm the deputy city clerk. While in the meantime, I'm the acting clerk. So I am the staff liaison at the moment for this advisory committee. So happy to be here and happy to see all your faces, and I'm sure we'll meet at some point.
All right, thank you, Nicholas. Welcome. It'll be a pleasure to work with you. Okay, so now I will call on Ollie Wyatt and Elizabeth Yates, who will be presenting issues concerning the 2S LGBTQIA+ community in Thorold and how the committee can support in addressing these issues. So over to you, Ollie and Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'm just getting my screen sharing going here. Oh, I work in a Teams environment, so every time I have to do this in Zoom, I get completely discombobulated because it's a little bit different. Okay, and I want to shoot. Hang on a second. Just give me a minute. Let me try that again. Okay, can everybody see the full screen slides? Yes.
Okay. We're seeing the presenter version.
Okay, shoot. Okay. Let's try this again then. I am very good at this in Teams, so just bear with me. Sorry about that. Okay.
Okay, now we're seeing the full screen. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with all of you tonight. We really appreciate being in this environment with folks who are committed to addressing the negative impacts of discrimination and to helping making Thorold a diverse and welcoming community for everyone, including members of the Two-Spirit and LGBTQ+ community. So let me just make sure I can advance the slides. Yes. Okay. So we'll do some introductions. We'll talk about some local and national challenges facing the community, some resources for community support, some suggestions for how you can help, and hopefully some time for questions and discussion. So I'll turn it over to Ollie to introduce themselves.
Can everyone hear me?
Gotcha, Ollie.
Are we good? Okay. So my name is Ollie Wyatt. I'm 25. My pronouns are they, them. I am the co-coordinator of Quaker Bible Camp with my dear friend Allie Phillips. We work out of Silver Spire United Church. I have a combined BA in Child and Youth Studies and Women and Gender Studies, and I live in Port Colborne.
Thanks, Ollie. And a little bit about me. I'm a Thorold resident, proud mom of 2 queer kids. I am a member of the PFLAG Niagara leadership team. PFLAG, in case you're not familiar, is a national organization, a charity that provides support and advocacy for members of the Two-Spirit and LGBTQ+ community. Via PFLAG, I am a member of the Niagara Transgender Action Coalition. And as well, a member of the Two-Spirit and LGBTQ+ working group at Brock University, where I am employed. I should note that what I say tonight reflects my views and not necessarily my employer or those organizations. And I have a history of being involved with the community since I moved here in 2013. I'm a past member of the Parks and Rec Committee, a past member of the Active Transportation Committee, and I currently serve on the library board along with Andrew. And you'll see in the photo that that's a picture of my house on Kiefer Road with a sign saying support trans youth. And in response to the rise of transphobic policies restricting the rights of young people to express their gender identity and receive gender affirming care, PFLAG Canada launched a nationwide lawn sign campaign in conjunction with Trans Day of Visibility at the end of March. So we proudly planted our lawn sign as a show of solidarity and hopefully to, make passerby in the neighborhood think about these issues and perhaps think about what they can do to support the trans community. And our sign stood firm for about a month, but one Monday morning, we woke up to find that it was gone from our lawn. And, this kind of vandalism is not really surprising. I think just about every single symbol of pride in Niagara has been defaced at one time or another. But I did find it really so disturbing that someone had, really, was so motivated to go and take this from my lawn, and especially, thinking what it's a neighbor or someone that I've exchanged pleasantries with, etc. So, as I was kind of stewing about this, I thought of contacting your committee just to let you know, by the way, transphobia is alive and well in Thorold, as it is everywhere. And I happen to be acquainted with Janice, who I met at, I think it was a queer solidarity march at Brock in the fall. And so she invited me to speak to you all. And so here we are. And one thing that happened that did restore my faith in humanity a little bit, or at least in the humanity of my neighbors, is that at the end of the day, we found that someone had returned our sign. So they tucked it up behind a planter near our front steps. So it was definitely gone that day. So we can only surmise that someone took it and discarded it, and someone who knew that it was our sign kindly brought it back to us. So that was a little, more of a heartwarming ending to the story. So now it's over to Ollie again.
So, the queer community in Niagara faces a number of challenges. Despite the fact that we make up approximately 5% of Niagara residents age 15 and older, it's closer to 10% for ages between 15 and 24. We encompass a wide range of sexual and gender identities, Indigenous and racial identities. I myself am non binary. The kids that I work with range from transgender, cisgender, lesbian, gay, bisexual, a whole host of wonderful identities that I'm privileged to be privy to. Um, Unfortunately, there is still a lot of discrimination and hate in the region. Hateful protests at school boards, drag events, and story times. And as somebody who attended the counter protests at both the DSBN and the Niagara Catholic School Board, they were awful to attend. The counter protesters were lovely and wonderful. The anti-gay protesters were quite violent. There's also been hateful speech from local politicians, vandalism of pride symbols, crosswalks, flags, etc. At Silver Spire, we have a rainbow ramp painted out front, and somebody spray painted it. That was happened, I believe, last year. We still have it up. And there's also a lack of representation in municipal politics, and we experience discrimination in daily life, in employment, healthcare, and housing.
And of course, these challenges extend far beyond Niagara. So provincially, we're seeing policies that make it unsafe for students in Alberta, New Brunswick, and Saskatchewan to use their chosen names and pronouns. And Alberta has gone the further step of restricting gender-affirming care. Nationally, there's a real surge of anti-Two-Spirit and LGBTQ plus hate. So a really, alarming 64% increase in police reported hate motivated violence just between 2020 and 2021. I suspect if we looked at the numbers for more current years, it might even be higher. We see leaders in the community targeted with hate and online attacks, spaces and events targeted by protesters, and Two-Spirit and LGBTQ plus people and their allies harassed as groomers and pedophiles. And much of this information comes from the Society for Queer Momentum, which is a national organization that runs campaigns to raise awareness and to fight back against this kind of hate and discrimination. Over to you, Ollie.
And just to add on to that, our Queer Kid Bible Camp this year, we are running our second ever overnight camp for queer kids in the region. And we shared to our social media that registration was open. And while a number of responses have been positive, the majority was overwhelming, vile hate, which is really disappointing and unsettling. However, there are a number of resources in our community who are working towards equality and fighting for queer people in this region. So there's PFLAG Canada, the Niagara chapter, Queer Kid Bible Camp, Out Niagara, Senior Pride Network Niagara, Positive Living Niagara, Quest Community Health Center, Niagara Falls Community Health Center, OPIRG Brock, the Youth Wellness Hub, NTAC, the Niagara Transgender Action Coalition, Silver Spire United Church, and the Niagara Folk Arts Multicultural Center.
And I just want to add to that to say that most of these organizations are entirely run by dedicated volunteers, and we're just operating on a shoestring and doing the best we can. And despite those challenges of finding time and resources, we regularly provide support for community members. And sometimes we focus on the tough slog of advocacy, but sometimes we just come together in joy. That photo is from the Trans Day of Visibility March we held in 2023, and it was just a wonderful time to be together in a very positive environment. And so thinking about, this situation, and perhaps you're thinking about what you could do to help curb some of these challenges. So First stop, of course, in any situation is educating yourself, and there are so many resources out there to support your learning, including the websites of the organizations linked in the slides. You follow some of us on social media. We're regularly sharing information as well. You can learn about issues and events. You can advocate for training in your workplaces or your organizations if you happen to be volunteering. It would be so fantastic if staff, council, and committees at Thorold City Hall received training in Two-Spirit and LGBTQ+ issues. And since I put together this slide, I've learned that Out Niagara has recently launched a free training course for workplaces. So that's available for folks to take advantage of. As well, there's lots of different ways to take action. We all have our varying capacities and comfort levels. So, you know, maybe some of us are comfortable writing letters, whether they're handwritten letter or using a pre-formatted email template. You can donate to organizations which support the community, and, you know, show up. It's Pride Month. There's so many exciting events happening in the region. Pride in the Park is coming up on Saturday. And also, since I put together this slide, Out Niagara has also just launched a community calendar. So you can just go there and you can look and find out what's going on in the community. And I included this image from Sophie Laval just to convey that idea that you really need to take action to actually be an ally. And I'm sure that's something that members of this community have thought about and try to practice as well. And so that's it. I think we made our time, and we're thrilled to receive any questions or comments. And thank you again for making space for us tonight.
Ollie and Elizabeth, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I work outside of the region. I work for the region of Peel, and I was fortunate enough to get to do the flag raising for Peel paramedics, and also attending the Peel Regional Police flag raising as well. And the work you do is phenomenal. And please, I'm going to put the questions to the floor, but, you know, also let us know any way that we can help and support outside of this. But any questions from anyone on the meeting? Andrew.
It's a couple things. One is a concern with the transfen, the meditation. Sometimes I'm worried about it doing stuff to some people. Like, I'm not sure some of the meditations to transition could be dangerous for some people. For health reasons, I'm talking about.
Sure. And you have.
And the other thing is, I wanted to mention something. I don't remember the details, but there was this person from the last century who they found out was a girl, was biologically female, but had been living as a man and a doctor for years. That there have been cases of them in the past. They just kept it was a lot more quiet, hush hush about the. They just basically changed and moved somewhere else and just never admitted that they were trans.
And certainly that's, you know, a kind of a common phenomenon because it simply wasn't safe to be trans. We're living in a day and age now where at least there is legal protection for folks under our human rights codes and legislation, etc. So there's hopefully less of that hiding going on. But that just wasn't, it wasn't really feasible for people to live openly as a transgender person. And to your first point around the safety of medications, so I'm not a physician. However, I've, read.
Elizabeth, may I jump in as a trans person?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, Ollie. Yeah, go for it.
That's okay.
I didn't see.
Okay.
I didn't see.
That's okay. So I am a trans person. I have started medically transitioning. And it's important to note that a lot of people think that everyone who comes out as transgender must medically transition. Whether or not that means taking hormones, whether or not that means gender affirming surgeries. For a lot of people, they are life-saving. Do you have any specific concerns about what aspects of health
Oh, what I mean is sometimes I know hormones can do lots of things for your body. Sometimes it confuses your body gets does I just know that hormones are a lot of ways like are steroids are a type of hormone and they cause problems. So I'm just saying that some cases, especially dosages, I think have to be careful because if you have too high of dose, it would probably cause a lot of problem. Because
Well, yeah, and that's true of any medication.
it's just
Medically
something to be
transitioning.
they need. But I'm just saying certain people I know of someone who had some health problems before, and I'm worried that it could potentially have issues if that it could exasperate health issues for some people.
Well, that's something that would be between them and their doctor, whoever is helping monitor their transition. It's like any sort of new medication. You would talk to a doctor, you would have your blood checked. I went through it. I didn't have any negative side effects. I know
It's just something that I'm always concerned because I just worried about the health aspect because I don't want and yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. That's very kind. And thank you, Ollie, for being so open about your personal journey. Councillor Harry, you have a question?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ollie and Elizabeth, thanks for coming in. I just have a question, but first I'll just report our Pride flag raising on Monday was well attended again, and I'm very proud here in the city of Thorold that we also have a Pride flag in the Battle of Beaver Dams Park that flies 365 days a year. So I'd like to see more inclusivity for sure in Thorold, but it's always a challenge and always a difficult step sometimes that we have to make, but I strongly believe in it, and hopefully we won't have this discussion one day. That's really the goal, isn't it? That you know, we won't need to raise a flag because it'll be us. It'll be who we are in our society. So that's where we're at so far. My question is, you mentioned about to contact someone for training about LGBTQ2S plus issues. Who is the contact person and what is the specific group?
Yeah, sure. So Out Niagara is an umbrella organization that I'm not sure of the date they formed, but it's fairly recent. I'm going to hazard perhaps last 5 years. And so the idea is to kind of unite all of this wonderful groups under an umbrella organization that can help kind of coordinate some activities and be a vehicle for communication. So Out Niagara is the entity that has designed this training course. And I'm happy to send that information along by email. Would I direct it, I guess, to Justin and he could pass that along?
Yeah, that will work.
Perfect. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Hey, do we have any more questions or feedback from the group? Councillor DeAngela.
Thank you. I just want to make a comment. Thank you for the presentation. It's always insightful when you're learning and there's more education, because that's one of the things that we really have to focus on is making sure that we're educating. I like the idea of training. Like I'm speaking from a political standpoint here. I believe training is very critical for our political leaders because they represent leaders in our community and they set the tone and example. So it's very, very critical that we have that. I know I've been involved in politics for over 25 years and it's really come a long way. And it's good to see that we're having more diversity training. Any type of training like that is very, very key because sometimes you not knowingly say something that is somewhat disrespectful. But when you go through these training sessions, I did this when I was on the Niagara Regional Police Board. We went through diversity training. It was quite helpful because you get a better understanding. Because sometimes you have to walk the shoes of someone else to understand exactly what's happening. And as leaders, I think it's incumbent on us that we do more of this and that we set the example. So like I said, that's why I sit on this committee. I think it's very, very important to have a healthy community where everyone's inclusive and we work together. So I know this council has been working towards that, making those steps. It's part of our strategic plan. So like I'm open to feedback all the time. If you see us doing something wrong where we can adjust it, please let your counselor, you have Councilor O'Hare and you got myself here, but there's 6 other counselors and a mayor that we have to make our community a better place, and we have to work on that. It doesn't just happen. So I think it's critical. So I appreciate the presentation. I appreciate the insight. It's very helpful. Thank you. Didn't really have a question for you, but I just wanted to say a few comments.
Thank you. Elizabeth, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond with thank you for your openness. And as you mentioned, like it's a process of lifelong learning for all of us in all kinds of contexts about all kinds of issues. And so we're always learning and growing. And I really appreciate the dedication and openness of this committee. And if you are able to bring this forward to city council or other city committees and other spheres that you operate in, that would be fantastic and much appreciated. Because the more we learn, the more we can support each other together.
Thank you. Over to you, Councilor O'Hare.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Elizabeth. If you would just keep us in mind as well, when you have events and you would like to involve politicians, by all means, please reach out, because sometimes communication is really hard in a city where we don't have a daily publication or a television station that's devoted just to our city. So it's hard sometimes to know and hear of all the events that are going on. So my request would be, don't hesitate to reach out to the clerk or to even the mayor's office, and they can send out memos to us and just remind us that an event is happening. You could reach out and invite us directly. I would certainly encourage that. So that's my last comment. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I was just going to say I really appreciate that, and we'll definitely do so. And I was going to mention we've had really great support from the Thorold Community Activities Group. We've held a couple of events, PFLAG, at that hall, and so there definitely will be more events happening here in Thorold, and I'll do my best to pass them along. So thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or feedback from the group? Now, with that, Elizabeth and Ollie, thank you so much. This is a critically important issue, and not just during June. We know this is something that we want to commit to year round, right? So if we can ever support, please let us know how. And as the councilors have said, whether it's communicating through the mayor's office or through city council, or contacting Justin, please let us know any ways that we can support you, and we definitely commit to that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your presentation tonight, and please stay in touch.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
All right. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
You too.
Bye-bye. Great. Thank you. That was a terrific presentation. Thank you, Justin, for putting that together. And definitely, Janice, I know that you were instrumental in bringing this cause forth, and we definitely want to be able to engage with members of the community who are experiencing issues when it comes to different, spheres or intersections of diversity. And I think this is where we really see our mandate at play, right? Where we can start to be effective. So thank you for bringing this forward. So item 7.1 is the new member. So Dennis, I had already put you on the spot to introduce yourself to us. So what I'm going to do in this section is basically do a roundtable so you can get to know who the rest of the members are on the group. So my name is Renee Nand. I'm the chair of the committee. I am CCDI certified in terms of being a diversity and inclusion professional. I work for the region of Peel. I'm manager of planning and performance for paramedics, and under my portfolio of culture and well-being as well, amongst other things. And I've been the chair since we've been in action. So really love working with this group, and moved to Thorold in 2020. So with that, I'll pass it over to Janice.
Hi, Dennis, welcome. My name is Janice. My pronouns are she, her. A few things about me. So I was discussing this kind of at the beginning. So I'm a mom of 3. So I'm a very, very busy mom. Two of my kids are teenagers, and then my daughter is going into grade 1. I'm also part of the Joint Accessibility Committee, and I'm currently doing my master's in social justice and equity studies at Brock, and I also worked at Brock for over 17 years as an ESL instructor. So yeah, so just a little bit about me, and yeah, just welcome to the committee. It's a wonderful committee to be a part of.
Thank you. So I'm just going to go according to who I see on my screen. So Councillor D'Angela.
Thank you all. Dennis, welcome to the to our group here. I appreciate you putting your name forward and participating to make Thorold a better community. Just a little bit of background myself. I sit as a Thorold City Councillor right now, but I've held many positions throughout the community. I was at one point in time mayor. I was regional councillor, served as a councillor in the past. Also served on the Hydro Commission, and then I also served 2 terms on the Police Services Board. This is where I saw quite a bit of change happening over time, and I just recently got off that a couple of years ago. So this is a great group. It's very diverse, and I think we'll work well in making Thorold a better place, because we all have our say here. You just have to speak up. So just don't sit there, participate, speak up, voice your opinion, because it's very crucial. From a councillor standpoint, we often like the best ideas come from our residents, not from councillors. We don't. We just implement what other people tell us, and we have to really listen. Thanks.
Thank you. Saba. You're on mute, Saba, if you're speaking. There you go.
Everyone, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Honestly, I just want to echo what other people have said. I don't have too much more to add. Unfortunately, my audio keeps kind of cutting in and out, so people keep freezing and then freezing and unfreezing. So I caught some of what people said, and some of it I missed, unfortunately.
No worries, Saba. Thank you. And Dennis, Saba's our vice chair on the committee as well, and she's a Thorold resident, obviously. Justin.
So yes, I'm Justin. I'm the legislative assistant in the clerk's department for City of Thorold. So I'm here to help the committee move along and get agendas put together and speakers, and just assist the committee with everything they do.
Thank you, Justin. And Nicholas, I know you gave us a brief intro, but maybe a bit more of your background.
Yeah, I've been with the City of Thorold for almost exactly a year now as a deputy clerk. And so my role with this committee is really to, if you have questions, I can, if I don't have an answer right here on the spot, I can go back and get back to you, any questions you may have. As Councillor O'Hare mentioned, if you have any questions about, questions you may have for council or about really anything council related, in addition to contacting the councillors, you can contact me and certainly Justin as well, and we can advise you as best as we can. Clerk's department is also kind of responsible for, under the new strategic plan that was recently approved by council, there are some strategic priorities and operational kind of action plans. And so one of them is to develop and implement a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy. So that's something that our department will, kind of start planning for and then working on. So hopefully going forward, we'll have some information for you about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. And that's fine, Saba. I saw your notes. You'll log off and rejoin. Thank you. Councillor O'Hare, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, Dennis. I'm really happy that you put your name forward. It probably takes a little bit of consideration whether or not you want to jump in. I'm very pleased that you have. A little bit about myself. I've always been interested in social justice from a very young age, and continue to believe in it and support it. This DEI committee is in its first year here in Thorold, and we're kind of learning as we go along, but it's a very important committee. And over time, I'm sure we're going to achieve some great things. So I'm once again very glad that you're with us on this committee.
Thank you. And last but not least, Andrew.
I am Andrew. Well, the other one mentioned I'm on the library board, but I'm also someone who has what I call because it's an invisible disability, and I want more understanding of what that is. Things that aren't physical, because a lot of people only think about the physical disabilities out there.
Thanks so much, Andrew. So Dennis, that gives you a bit of an overview of our group, but I hope it gives you a better understanding. And yeah, feel free to contact any of us if you have any questions or feedback or concerns. And yeah, welcome to the team.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for such generous introduction. I'm looking forward to working with you all, and I hope that I can meaningfully contribute to this group.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move to item 7.2. So it's correspondence from the Niagara region regarding their DEI action plan 2023 progress. And I have to say, I was fortunate enough to be a part of that process and contributing to that. So yeah, looking forward to an update. And is that from Justin or Nicholas?
It was more just no update, really. It was just presented as information purposes and the file that's attached to. We didn't get anything other than that.
Okay, perfect. So I'd urge everyone, if you have an opportunity, please take a look at it. I think it was really well represented, and it was an amalgam of the Diet committee and staff who really partnered and went out there with the community. So I think it's a great report. I think it's very reflective of the evolving Niagara region. So take a look at it, and if you have any questions, I think we can bring it back to this group and then contact our counterparts over at Niagara region if we want to get more information. And I know, Justin, we were going to ask Cassandra if she was able to come and do a presentation about that at some point.
Yes, I can put that down to reach out to her again.
Yeah, that would be terrific. Thank you. Item 8.1, committees, policy working groups. So Councillor here, I know that you were trying to do some work around this. Do you have any updates?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have started some of the notations for presenting to the committee here regarding the stopgaps between downtown businesses and accessibility issues. So I do have just a small sheet of notes that I've taken so far, and I believe Justin is going to allow me to share the screen. Is that correct, Justin?
And sorry, was this for the accessible entrances section?
That's
of the
right.
agenda?
That's ahead of
That's two more ahead of what we're on right now.
Oh, I thought that's the one that we're dealing with right now.
Policy working group right now.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll circle back to that one in a second. Shouldn't be too long. Okay. So item 8.2. So at the meeting on May 28th, 2024, Council passed the strategic plan 24 to 27 and beyond. So the one item that affects this committee includes development and implementation of a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy. So Justin, over to you for a bit of an update.
Oh, actually, before we get to that, for the policy working group, I just wanted to update that so far, Councillor O'Hare, Cameron, and Janice are part of that group, and it ended in April. It was a 12-month working group. So if you would like to continue that working group, we can motion to extend it for another 12 months. And if anyone wants to join it, they can join it now too.
Okay, Councillor O'Hare.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure, I haven't seen Cameron. Is Cameron still in the committee?
Yes, he is away this meeting. He let me know.
Okay, and I guess then the question would have to be put to Janice, who's here. If you'd like to continue working on this. We have not met as a group yet. Things have just been too busy to address some of these issues. We've I know personally I've downloaded some of the policies that are available through other cities. It's a bit daunting, of course, because some of them are huge. But I would be definitely putting my name forward to continue to work on this. So I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want to address the committee and see if everyone who was on, or at least Janice, and if anyone else would like to join, and then we can start to perhaps redirect our focus and see if we can get this work started.
Yeah, Councillor O'Hare, do you just want to give a brief overview of what you're collecting and doing?
Sure. So there are many cities out there that have adopted DEI policies. Some are extremely detailed, and I'm talking 75 to 100 pages on the DEI policy. I think for our purposes, we should turn to some of the municipalities that have developed much more, for lack of a better word, tighter DEI policies. And I've seen some that are in the area of 12 to 20 pages. That still sounds like a lot, but it's a little bit easier to address. We know the basic fundamental that we're trying to achieve here, but there has been a lot of good work done to lay out some of the boundaries and some of the steps to follow. So I think if we could, as a group, each present a couple of samples and examples, and again, there's no reason why we should have to, at this stage, invent the whole DEI policy ourselves. But we could very easily tap into some of the great resources that are out there and streamline, and maybe perhaps it'll be built on over the years. Maybe we'll just start with some very groundwork and then continue to add and progress as we go, because I don't think this committee in 1 year is going to be able to achieve everything that we'd like to. So that's, you know, what the concept was, to get this off the ground and how we might be able to move it forward.
Agreed. So does anybody else on the line want to, sorry, Janice, I'll go to you first.
Right, so I just wanted to start by thanking Councillor O'Hare for starting to do the research into the different policies that are out there. And yeah, some of them are way lengthier than others. And so I think definitely kind of taking a look at the ones that are more condensed with that language that's more focused would be great. And then I just had maybe this will be addressed kind of in the next section, but would the DEI policies or policy that we'd be kind of creating and coming up with, would that tie into the DEI strategy that's being proposed here? Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, Nicholas, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And for sure. So one of the things that Clerk's Department has started on even before the strategic plan was finalized was there's a Niagara region holds a DEI community of practice, which is held generally quarterly. And it's basically an opportunity for different organizations from across the region to attend, discuss some of the work that their organization is doing, some of the steps that they've taken to kind of implement their own strategies, or their plans to how they envision their DEI strategy playing out, some of the challenges that they've been facing as well. So I've attended the last two. I'll continue to attend. There's been some really interesting presentations. Brock University presented, Niagara College presented, the Niagara District School Board presented. So those are larger organizations. I know there's been a call for some, maybe smaller and medium-sized organizations to discuss some of the steps that they've taken. And, like Councillor O'Hare kind of alluded to, some of the larger organizations, you do have these very lengthy policies, and you can certainly borrow from some of them, but maybe some of the medium and smaller sized organizations also have some really good input into how we can develop our strategy going forward. And certainly this advisory committee can play a very important role in developing that strategy. So there's a number of things on the go, a number of resources that are out there to help us as we work towards this operational requirement under the strategic plan.
Thank you. And I think, if we could meet with Cassie, I know she's instrumental, and Cassandra leads the diversity and equity inclusion work over at Niagara Region. So just hearing about the framework and how that was done and implemented, I think that would be very helpful to this group. Janice, back to you.
Oh, thanks. And I just had a quick follow-up question there, Nicholas. Is that open to everybody, the DEI community of practice, to be able to attend and watch what they have to present?
I can double check with Cassie and get back to you. I don't want to give you an incorrect answer. I would think that it would be, but I just want to verify for you, and then I can get back to the committee with an update.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Nicholas. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And yeah, I think that's very important, that we are mindful of scalability and that we are looking at documents that are kind of reflective of the size of our municipality. Just because, again, to Councillor O'Hare's point, they can be 500 pages in scope, depending on, where we're looking at. So I'd say let's be mindful of that. I've shared a document, Councillor O'Hare, Janice, and with Cam as well, just as we're speaking. So yes, if anybody wants to participate, please just send an email if you're not decided tonight. And thank you for continuing this work. Councillor O'Hare?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to point out, if anyone wants to check one out that's very accessible. Oh, there you go. Fort Erie. It's a little bit of a condensed version, and they hit a lot of good points right on the head, and it's not going to be too mind-boggling. So I really respect what they've done down there, and we may be dipping into Fort Erie's DEI policy quite a bit. Thank you.
So you mean like we might use that as the base and then we take what we like from other ones to fit? Kind of idea.
Yeah, we can use it as reference. Thank you. Okay. So that was, I believe, item 8.2 that we dealt with. Go ahead, Justin.
So do we want to continue the policy working group, or combine it with the strategic plan working group, or I'm not sure where we want to go from there.
So Councillor O'Hare and Janice, I think I'd put the question to you. Do we want to combine it with the strat plan working group? Or do you want to just continue on the trajectory of looking at this in isolation? Councillor O'Hare?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Personally, I'd like to just stay focused on the policy. If I add more to the task, I think it's going to be a little bit much to bear with. So I'd like to stay focused on the policy and see if we can work towards that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we focus in on that, and then if there is an opportunity to kind of build it out with the strategic plan group, I think then we can kind of combine it, but there is research that needs to be done in the interim. Okay. All right, we're good with that, Justin?
And if we just get a mover and a seconder to continue this working group.
Okay, so if I can get a mover and a seconder to continue the working group, Councillor D'Angela first and Councillor O'Hare seconder. Thank you. Motion passed. All in favor? Perfect. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to item 8.3, and we're looking at accessible entrances. And I know this is something that Andrew, you had raised, and Councillor here, you had some feedback on. So I'll put it to the floor. Any updates or? Questions, concerns, feedback? Councillor O'Hare?
Yeah, thank you. I met with Andrew. We haven't had a chance to meet downtown, but we may continue the other stages of the notations that I've taken so far. I do have a sheet just to present to the committee. It's not a lot, but just to give them an idea of what we're talking about here. So if I may share my screen, Justin.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, let me just minimize this one. That. Okay.
Button that says share
And
screen.
all right, so let's do that. All right, and there. Okay. And I'm not sure. Can you see anything yet?
All it says is Councillor O'Hare has started staring. Oh, now.
Yeah, we can see it now, Councillor O'Hare.
Okay, great. So this is only the south end of Front Street. And well, also some on Sullivan, as you can see. So the first three are side by side. And you can see there is a threshold that leads to those businesses approximately 4 to 5 inches high off of the sidewalk. So anyone that's walking with a walker, a wheelchair, a cane, anyone who just has difficulty walking, you've got to get up over that 4 to 5 inches in height. Now that might not seem like a lot, but to someone who's already struggling with a device or just having difficulty walking, that can be challenging. If we move on to Front Street, and I didn't have the addresses, the numbers for them, but this is the store, Low Quality. It's a clothing store, and our favorite shop, Records. And by the way, these aren't meant in any way to say anything negative about these buildings or store fronts, landlords, anything like that. It's just to show what the reality is downtown and what some people face, and how can we possibly correct it, and how we might be able to proceed. So Low Quality and our favorite shop, Records, about a 5-inch rise to enter their store. Coates's has a 6-inch height disadvantage. That's getting a little bit higher. Browse and Beauty, it's even higher, 6 to 7 inches. Rock and Roll Studio, 6 to 7 inches. And Fig Street, 4 inches. Impact Promo. That's where I stopped. So I will perhaps continue all the way down to the north end of Front Street. And what I'd like to recommend is that we retain some detailed notes about these irregularities and see if we can investigate further this company that I've heard about called Stopgap. And what Stopgap does is if you provide the dimensions for the difference in the sidewalk height to the entrance to the store, the width of the entranceway, they will build a ramp to your specifications. And I think it's a nonprofit company. I have to investigate that one more time, but I believe it's a nonprofit company. So if we're to do something to make these stores more accessible, we somehow have to eliminate these gaps from the sidewalk to the or protrusions to the store entries. So this is one way I've seen it work. I've seen it these stop gaps in place. One thing is that the store owner, it costs them nothing, but they do have to take it in at night and put it out in the morning. I was speaking to a store owner this afternoon, and she said this would be great because many times someone will just stub their toe or not quite trip, but it's an impediment to entering the store and leaving the store. And she said it's a great idea, and she would be on board. So A, we would need to figure out how much it would cost, and of course we could do this in stages. B, we would have to make sure that the store owners are on side, because they're the ones that are going to have to put it out and take it in. It's made of plywood. They're very solid. They'll take wheelchairs, they'll take multiple weights. It's just the framework that they've designed so that it is very strong. It's not something that we'd have to be concerned is going to collapse. And I believe they go right across Canada. So they have a lot of them out there. And the ones that I've seen are pretty impressive. So that's it for start of my report, and we can continue our investigation and also discuss if this is something that we may want to address and try to as well take on in, let's say, baby steps, so that we don't have to have a cost of 30 businesses and provide these right away. Maybe we can do it in sections, but it sure would be wonderful if there were no obstructions to anyone wanting to enter a store at downtown Thorold.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I think really looking at the accessibility, and it's a low cost or no cost solution for the business owners. I only see a benefit to that. Any questions or feedback from the group? Councillor D'Angelo?
Yeah, I don't know if the councillor here, have you talked to the BIA regarding this too? Where there could be a bit of a partnership and possibly getting one of them and sort of showing the benefits, because sometimes as a business owner, it's hard to get buy-in if there's a cost associated with items sometimes. But if there's a bit of a partnership, it could be promoted, and the BIA does have funding in their envelope that they could help with this project. Has there been any discussion with the BIA?
Not yet. We're still in just gathering information and making sure that we have the answers to some of the questions that might be put to us. So we can definitely look at contacting the BIA and seeing how they could be involved, for sure.
Yeah, I would get them into the process sooner than later. It's a better buy-in that way, and then they could also comment and see what some of the concerns and address those issues. And also from a funding standpoint, if you're trying to get some funds, if they have some money, they can put that aside now as opposed to later, because as the year goes on, the funding pot usually dissipates and there's not money there. So I would highly recommend that that discussion takes place sooner than later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Janice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to mention, Councillor O'Hare, that I could bring this to the Joint Accessibility Committee as well, and we could discuss it there too and get some feedback on maybe things that are available or if they've heard of the program, or yeah, I could bring it there.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic solution.
Wonderful.
Councillor O'Hare, yeah. You're in agreement?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that's great, Janice. Thank you. I think next steps would be get in touch with the BIA, see what partnerships can be established there, get more information from Stopgap so we have some hard numbers, continue the inventory down Front Street. And I know we're just speaking downtown, but we should be eventually branching out all over Thorold so that there are no impediments to anyone that wants to enter a business.
No, but it's a good idea to start with downtown, because then we can show that as an example, and then the other ones might be interested and they reach out to you.
Very good. Yeah, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay. All right. I think that one is wrapped up. So thank you. We have our next steps, and everybody provided good discussion around that. So looking at item 8.4, and this is the community resource information. So to my recollection, we have been discussing a repository of sorts that talks about different resources related to diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and how we could either share those resources or have, some type of repository. I think this may be one where, it was good discussion. I don't know how much headway we've made on it, but anything from the group with regard to this one? No, I think we'll defer it to the next meeting for additional discussion. only because I think we have to give some more thought to it, and then we probably can allocate more time to think about how we can provide resources out to the community in a consolidated way. Okay, so moving on then to item 8.5, this is Confederation Heights reported concern. So Janice, is this related to the presentation we had, or is this a separate one?
Sorry, what was this one?
Confederation Heights reported concern. I think this was related to the presentation. I just don't have the address. Justin, go ahead.
Yes, I'm pretty sure this was covered in the presentation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I know she said Thorold. I'm like, was it Confederation
Maybe
Heights?
it was
Not really
Confederation
sure.
Heights. I couldn't remember exactly where. Yeah.
He
We're all on
first
the
part of
same-
Confederation Heights, so.
Okay, that's terrific. So that matter has been dealt with. Thank you. So moving on to item 8.6 then. We're looking at-
Counselor has something. Diane. go.
Sorry, I am like
Yeah.
pulling up my screen up and down. Go ahead, Counselor.
Hey, no problem. I just had my hand waving. Just with the Confederation Heights report concern, I think it's just, I just want to point out, it's very critical when there's incidents of any kind that it's reported to the police, because part of their policing strategy is also incident based, right? So if no one reports concerns or issues, then they say, well, everything's fine there. So it's very, very important. This goes from speed issues to, the incident that we had with the sign being stolen. They all need to be reported so that there's a mechanism. Like I said, there was a rash of cars being broken into. If people report that, then there's patterns that happen, and then the police can get on top of that. I know their resources are stretched at times, but if they don't know about it, they won't be able to react to it. So it's very important that they get reported.
Thank you, Counselor. And you make an absolutely important point, because you can actually report things online as well. And without those things being reported, the stats look very low, right? So we get a bit of a misleading picture in terms of what's actually happening in the community if these things are not reported. So thank you. That's a really great point. Okay. All right. So moving on to then our next item, which is 8.6. And we are discussing the next committee meeting. So we've got July 11th on the books. And I just want to kind of get a sense from everyone at the table here. Does that work for everyone? If not, we can look at July 18th. And I'm going to hand it over to Justin.
Just to point out, it's July 4th currently is when our meeting is set.
Oh, July 4th.
But July 11th is not an option.
July 11th.
Because there is another meeting at that same time. The Joint Accessibility Committee meets that day. So staff will need to be at that meeting as well.
Okay, so that is piggybacking off of Canada Days, in which some people will take holiday. So we are either looking at the 4th or 11th then. So is everybody, I guess, tentatively prepared to attend the meeting on the 4th? If I can just see a show of hands. Okay, so I think we're going to go forth with scheduling the 4th, going forth with the 4th, Justin.
Okay, I'll leave it as it is.
Okay. I'd also like this group to give thought to perhaps an in-person meeting at some point. I know summer can be tricky, but I think it would be nice for our group to actually meet in person, since we've not done that. I don't know if the 4th is feasible or if we're looking at a later date, but yeah, if we can give some ideas to that. Justin, I don't know what that would look like in terms of being able to meet at City Hall or what have you.
If I know the dates, I can make sure the chamber is free, and it can be a hybrid meeting for those who can't attend in person.
So for this group, would the 4th be an opportunity to do that, or would we want to consider the meeting after? It's open to the floor.
I don't know.
No worries. Saba?
I have to attend a wedding on July 4th, so I will not be in town. But if any other time people want to meet, I would definitely be open to that. Even if it's like, I don't know if it's allowed, but even if it's outside the formal committee times, like if anyone wants to just go for a social event, like a coffee or a drink or something sometime in outside of the meetings, I don't know if that's allowed, but that could work too.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. Any other thoughts? Councillor D'Angela?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, I know when we have meetings, they always recommend City Hall, but we have other municipal resources and other buildings. Because sometimes it's where City Hall is, it's not very accessible. Like there's no transit that brings you there. It's not walkable. So I always try to, if we're going to have a meeting, we could also look at other locations. I know we have to work with the logistics of our clerk in terms of recording it. But you know, if we have to meet somewhere in downtown Thorold or Thorold Community Activities Group and rent their hall, sometimes those are better options if you're trying to get inclusive or more people to the meeting. Just keep that in mind when if we're going to have an in-person meeting, because it may be harder for people to get there.
Okay, that's a really great point. Councillor O'Hare?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I believe that council passed a motion to purchase a portable unit as well. Now, I'm not sure if that is operational. Maybe the clerk or Justin knows about that, but it was certainly approved by council so that meetings could be held in various locations.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know.
There is. We've used it for the Joint Accessibility Committee, and it's seemed to work well.
Very cool. Okay, so Justin, our meeting after the July one, is it tentatively scheduled, I guess, then for September?
Let me check when our next one is. July 4th, August, and then it'd be September 5th.
Okay, so is anyone then, I guess, interested? I'll put forth an email, I guess, to the group and see if anyone's interested in a social meetup to Sabbath's point prior to September. I know the summer gets quite busy, but I can take that on to circulate an email, see if anybody's interested in a meetup outside of that. Okay. All right, so we are on to roundtable discussions. Does anyone have anything they'd like to put forth? Go ahead, Andrew.
This is not exactly for us, but it's for the counselors and the people who work here. It was something that came to me with the presentation mentioned, but it wasn't directly involved with it, about the communication thing. Maybe maybe the counselors or something, we should start, because there seems to be with Thorold lots of communication issues. If maybe at some point we can either have a separate committee for communication or some protocol to try to help everyone communicate, because there seems to be a lot of communication issues in Thorold.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, you know, sure, one of our prior points looking at ways that we can communicate, you know, centralize information, ways that we can streamline. I think that's something we can bring forward. So Andrew, if you want to put that on the agenda for the next meeting, I think we can certainly expand on that a bit more.
Okay. I just thought it's something it's an issue that I know, I don't know how to solve it. I just know that there's one there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Justin.
One thing that it won't cover everything, but I do encourage everyone to sign up for the City of Thorold newsletter that gets sent out regularly, which does have various things going on related to the city, flag raisings, other events happening at City Hall, for example, and in the community. So that does help with some items if everyone wants to sign up for that.
That's fantastic. And then I was thinking too, Justin, in terms of city events happening, I know there's been a couple of flag raisings and everything. How can we get this group kind of aware of what's happening and things that we should be present at?
If I become aware of it, if a meeting's coming up, I usually put it in the correspondence, or if I do get it, I can send it out. But like I said, the best way would be the newsletter, because usually those types of events do get sometimes put in there. But yeah, it depends. Not all of the events come across my desk for me to know about either. So.
Okay, that sounds good. Councillor D'Angelo?
Yeah, I think from that standpoint, we need to work a little more closely with the mayor and council's administrative assistant. They would have more knowledge of some of the events or some of the invitations that are happening, and maybe we could address an email to them or through the clerk's office to the mayor and council's assistant to keep us apprised of any events or that are related, especially to our committee here. Because Justin's right, everything doesn't flow through the clerk's office, but any invitations or events usually flows through the mayor's office, especially the mayor's assistant.
Yeah, and I think that representation from this group is very important. So Justin, would it be possible then, I guess, to make that recommendation or request through the mayor's office?
I can also check with the mayor's office, because I know she does forward that to our communications team, but I don't know if everything gets forwarded or what all gets included in the newsletter exactly. So I can take a look.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Any more questions or feedback? Okay, not seeing any. So then we've landed on the next meeting being held on July the 4th.
D'Angelo's trying to say something then.
Sorry, Chair.
Go ahead.
I misunderstood you there. I thought you were just dealing with that one issue. I just wanted to bring up another issue because as councillors, we sit on different committees. And one of the ones I sit on is a road and traffic safety committee. And one of the things I especially focus on to make sure that happens is the sidewalks have both a sender and a receiver. I've identified a couple that don't, and I brought it to the committee. If anyone notices anything like that, again, it's an impediment if someone's coming to a sidewalk and then all of a sudden it drops 4 or 5 inches where the curb is. It needs to be cut properly, and then it's got to have a receiver on the other side so that, you know, if you're crossing the road, then you end up in a safe environment. So if anyone notices any of those things, please, I know it's not the jurisdiction specifically of this committee, but if they're brought up even at the round table, the accessibility, they can be dealt with at other committees that are sometimes more appropriate or have the proper funding. So I just wanted to throw that out there. As councillors, we sit on many committees, and we try to make sure we bring all that information forward to the right group. That's part of our job.
Thank you. Yeah, and you know what, the sidewalk issue has come up, I think, several times with this group, as per, you know, looking at accessibility, and we've identified a couple of neighborhoods. So whether it's, you know, Merritt around the Empire development, whether it's you know, along Lundy's Lane, it's becoming a big concern because we're seeing an increasing number of people walking on soft shoulders of live traffic. So I think we would like to discuss that kind of at length, because as the communities are growing, we're not seeing developers where there's sidewalks being put in place in large communities. Go ahead, Councillor.
I was just going to add to that from a council standpoint, and I know Councillor O'Hara, myself, and even Councillor Longo, we hammer developers all the time about sidewalks. That's our first question when a plan comes in front of us, not just for their little added addition of their little development, but those other major arteries. Because yeah, it's great you can walk on your street, but the sidewalk ends there and then it goes nowhere, especially out in Rolling Meadows, Merritt Meadows. Those are areas that really need to have some extra concentration. And we've also, from a council standpoint, worked with staff so that they have a greater understanding and know that. So when they're doing pre-preliminary work for these developments, that they're focusing on those issues more strategically so that they get in place sooner than later. So that, you know, it's great to have 300 homes, but if there's no sidewalks interconnecting, it's not really beneficial to the people that move in there. They shouldn't have to wait 5 years for that to happen.
Yeah, and connected to that, I'd also like to raise the issue of parks. And again, this is something that I think we spoke about, recreation parks. So for instance, at the Empire Legacy Complex, it's coming up on 5 years, if not more. And it is a community of 500 plus houses that are increasing, and there's no park for the young people.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've from a council, we've been stressing that. Also from a standpoint of providing services, a lot of times they don't build the commercial aspect. The corner store, the small restaurant doesn't get built in there. Again, not making it a very viable, livable community. So we have to change some of our council policies so that gets built as soon as a certain stage is met, not wait till the whole development is done, because the parks need to get there sooner, and same with some amenities to keep people there closer by, where they can don't have to jump in a car and drive off, right?
Yep, absolutely. Any more questions or feedback related to that? No, any more items for our roundtable? Okay, not seeing any. So again, our next meeting will be on July the 4th, and I will call for an adjournment if there are no other matters that we need to deal with. Okay, so we are adjourning this meeting at 7:15 p.m. on June 6th, and I thank you all for your time and contributions this evening. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.